Hello, everyone. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some multiple choice questions that are going to be not the same, but similar and definitely helpful on the actual chapter test this Friday. Okay, so the chapter test is going to have 10 multiple choice questions, and then it's going to have 2 free response questions, just covering, all the things that we talked about throughout the chapter. So I'm going to break this into 2 parts. This is going to be the multiple choice part, and then I'll post one after this that will be the handwritten responses, okay? All right, so the first one here, it says a pie chart at the right describes the distribution of favorite school subjects for 300 high school students. Which of the following can we conclude? So just in general, right, to zoom in on a pie graph, and I think you're all familiar with what they are, just tells you, right, this is the favorite subject. So 15% of all students like science, right? 8% like arts and so forth. And then you've got this other category that could be a bunch of other subjects. Okay, so obviously as you read through these answers, math was the favorite subject for 26 students. That's not what it's saying. This is saying 26% of the 300, so that's incorrect. English was the favorite subject of 96 students. Okay, so if you have 32%, right, 32% of a total of 300 students, right, simple math, just grab your calculator wherever you want and do 0.32 of 300 students tells you it should be 96 students. So this is representative of 96 students. And so B would be correct on that answer. So it's just a question of how to use a pie graph. Just remember, right, if it's talking about math here, 26% of 300, 0.26 times 300 gives you 78 students. And that's why we said this was wrong, right? 26 was incorrect. Okay, number 2, this is just, hitting back to what's wrong with this graph. We'll just look right here. This bar looks like it's around 7, and this bar up here is around 12. This bar looks like it's 1, 2, 3 times as high, right? So if this bar is 3 times as high and this bar is 7, this should be around 21, but we just said it's 12. And so the height of the bars is totally incorrect. Right? And so down here at D, this just reiterates, right? The graph exaggerates the difference between the number of champions of each breed category. Okay, so regardless of what this says, it's asking you about what's wrong with the graph. You should be able to compare, right? This is 8, this is 10, right? Comparing those things just doesn't seem right. And we had a quiz question that was like that as well. All right, so we'll spend a little bit more time here. You've got a population of the U.S. Is aging, though less rapidly than in other developed countries. At right is a stem plot of the percentages of residents age 65 and older in each of the 50 states. Okay, so you have 50 data points, and each data point, remember to look at your key, tells you that 7/7 is representative of 7.7%. That's how you read that. So this point right here, 17 with a 3, would be 17.3%. Okay, so the question is the following. There are 3 outliers. Okay, outliers are going to be at the very high end, right, or the low end. It tells us Alaska has the lowest percentage of older residents. So this right here is Alaska, has the lowest. Utah had the second lowest. Okay, so this is Utah. And Florida has the highest. And so what they just told us is those are our 3 outliers. Well, what percentage is for Utah? Utah was right here, 9.0%. Okay, so this is just reminding you guys that outliers come at the very low end of a data set or at the high end. Okay. All right. Number 4 is going to ask you something more about this stem plot. And again, you guys, this is not going to be exactly the same question. So this is just an overall general review of things that we've covered. Okay, so they want to know the IQR. I'm going to give you guys 2 ways to do this, and you can decide how you want to do it. Okay, so when you look at this data down here, there are 50 data points. You are more than welcome to go to the calculator, right, the stats one, and enter data, and it will tell you the IQR. Right? If that's the easiest way for you to do this, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do it by hand because it's not terrible. And so if you have 50 data points, right? Let's find quartile 1. Well, the middle here is going to be in between the 25th and the 26th data point, right? Because there's an even number of data points. And so quartile 1 is going to be half of that, which is going to put you right around the 13th data point. Okay, so let's count up 13 data points here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that right there is quartile 1, which is 12.4%. Okay, quartile 3, we can do the same trick and count 13 down from the high. And so if we start on the other end and go 13 in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That guy is quartile 3. And so that is 14.3%. Okay, so by definition, IQR is quartile 3, 14.3 minus 12.4, which would give us almost 2, looks like 1.9%. Okay, and so on this question here, I would choose 1.9%. If that did not make sense to you, and you guys don't know how to find, quartiles by hand, which is just cutting something in half and cutting it in half again, go to the statistics website. You'll have plenty of time on the test. Enter your data in, and it will report the IQR for you. Okay, I'm going to skip over 5, and let's come down here to 6. So it says a review of voter registration in a small town yielded the following table of number of males, females, and some other affiliation, Democrat, Republican. Which of the following conclusions seem to be supported? So just in general, if you guys see, right, a table like this, a two-way table, we always have to put in our total values, right? 300 and 600 is 900. This is 800. This is 300, which gives a total of 2,000. That's your table total. Down here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000. And 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000. And you can see if you add these up, you get 2,000. You need those totals so that you can do percentages. Okay, so let's just start reading through these things. Republicans outnumbered both Democrats and others. Well, the total Republicans was 800. Is that bigger than Democrats and other? Democrats and other adds up to 12, right? 1,200. So that's not true. The conditional distribution of party affiliation for males is 1,100. A conditional distribution is going to be percentages, right? So if you look at the males, the conditional distribution would be 300 divided by 1,000 and 500 divided by 1,000. So this is just a distractor, right? And for those of you who haven't kept up, you might not know that, but conditional distribution is percentages given a certain thing. So let's look at C. It says the marginal distribution of party affiliation is 1,000 and 1,000. Again, marginal distribution, you guys are going to get percentages. And so of party affiliation, your marginal distribution are totals over table totals. So you would go to, right, Democrat would be 900 divided by 2,000, which would give you a percentage. These are just distractors. They make no sense. Okay. There is an obvious association between gender and political party. Well, let's figure it out. If you're a male, right, given you're a male, right, the percentage of Democrats is 300 out of 1,000, right, which is 30%. Republicans is 500 out of 1,000, which is 50%. Others is 200 out of 1,000, or 20%. Okay, so if you know that someone's a male, right, look, 50% of males are Republican. Well, let's see if gender matters. Let's find female. So we'll do the same thing. I'm not going to write it. 600 out of 1,000 is 60%. And 300 out of 1,000 for Republican, 30%. And 100 out of 1,000 for other, 10%. So if you know that that person is a female, it is very likely that they're Democrat. Okay, and so yes, there is definitely an association between gender and political party. What that means is that if you tell me someone's gender, I can guess their political party because most males are Republican and most females are Democrat. That's what this word association means. Okay. All right. So number 7 here, it says a sample of 99 distances has a mean of 24 and a median of 24.5. Unfortunately, so right here, if you're thinking about this, you have a mean, which is 24, and a median, which is 24.5. Okay, so this is what they told us. Unfortunately, it has just been discovered that the maximum value in the distribution, which was erroneously recorded as 40, that's a fancy word for it was wrong, right? Before it was here, actually is 50. And so this data point was wrong. It's supposed to come up here to be 50. Well, what is that going to do to a mean? A higher number pulls the mean towards it. What's it going to do to the median? Nothing. That data point was to the right, which means it's in the right 50% of the data. Just because it goes up higher doesn't change the median. So if you have that happen, the median stays the same, and the mean or the average value is going to go up because that's a bigger number. So when you add them all up and divide, you get a bigger number. Okay, so 7 would be C. The median remains the same, but the mean is increased. Okay. All right, number 8. Mr. Yates picked up a dozen items at the grocery store with a mean cost of $3.25. Then he throws in an apple pie for $6.50. What is the new mean? Okay, well, before, right, you picked up a dozen, which is 12. And now we're going up to 13. And so your new mean now has 13 items. So you guys know you add them all up and divide by 13. Well, what was the original mean? The original mean was 12 items with an average of $3.25. So you have to do 12 times $3.25, right? And then divide that by 12, and that's what gets you your original mean of $3.25. Okay? And so what's up with the new one? Well, you have to take these 12 items. So you have 12 items that cost $3.25 plus a new item, the apple pie, that costs $6.50, and now divide by 13 because you have 12 items plus another one is 13, giving you an answer there. If you type that into your calculator, you're going to get $3.50. Okay. Process of elimination, you could cross A out, right? It's not like the average is going to go down when you add a more expensive item, right? The mean is going to go up. So you could have for sure crossed out A. Okay, so definitely don't guess A if you don't know. All right, so a small company estimating its photocopies expenses finds that the mean number of copies made is 258. So what they're telling me here is that the mean number of copies made is 258. It says it's got a standard deviation of 24, right? So this is what we just talked about on the last quiz, right? Which of the following is the correct interpretation? Well, think about what we said. Right? If I asked you guys to write that sentence, you would say, we would expect the data to deviate from the average by 24 copies on average. Okay, and if you look at these answers, go right down here to D. On average, the number of copies made each day was about 24 copies per day away from the mean. That's exactly what I said, just in different words. But as you go through these, right? None of these, we haven't even talked about these. Always between here and here, right? These are just distractors for those students that haven't talked about standard deviation or worked with it. Okay. All right, 5-number summary is given. Remember, this is the min. This is quartile 1. This is the median, quartile 3, and the max. Okay, and remember, right, you have your min, you have quartile 1, you have your median, you have quartile 3, and you have your max. And all of these little areas here are 25% because you're cutting them into quarters, right? Go to the median, you've captured 50% of the data. If you go to quartile 3, you've captured 75%. If you go from the min to the max, which is the range, that's 100% of your data. So it says, look, in all 380 students, how many scores between 35 and 61? Okay, well, 35 is quartile 1 and 61 is your median. What percentage of the data falls in between, right, quartile 1 and the median? 25% of the data. Okay, so 25% of 380 students, right? Simple math. 25%, 0.25 times 380 students gives you 95 students. Okay, so 95 students, you would pick C. All right, so those are not going to be, like I said, I'm not going to give you guys the exact questions, but those reviewed all of the topics that you will be asked about, right? Generic graphs in general, right? The population stuff about a stem plot. Maybe I give you something else that you have to work with. 5-number summaries. What is the standard deviation mean? Conditional and marginal distributions from the first section. So going through that will be helpful. If you are looking for more things to do, you guys, my biggest recommendation would be to read the textbook, right? Especially if you guys are English people, right? It won't take you longer than a half an hour to read through that text because there's so many pictures and you could skip over the examples, but they do a really good job of talking about the vocab and explaining things in context. Okay, I will add a second one with some free response questions coming up.